example, when we are working with grammar, when we want to introduce either new vocabulary or new chunks of grammar. Well, we have different methods and approaches. And during this presentation, during this first approach, there are going to be different types of activities. Practical activities. We are going to have controlled, semi-controlled, and free. No, not always these activities, especially semi-controlled and free, are going to be only for practice. We are going to see in different examples that they can also be used even for evaluation. I can constantly be evaluating my students without thinking for meaning for evaluation and exam. Remember that evaluation, we said that can be formal and informal. Formal in a specific activity thought and designed for evaluating. Informal when I'm observing, and probably if I see something valuable, something that really needs to be taken into account, the students, for the students to get a number, pues I do it. And informal also is in order to provide feedback and to guide students in the learning process. Probably this evaluation can be useful for me to notice or to know if my students are doing well, they are properly understanding, or maybe they need more control practice, or even if I need to reteach something, okay? So this is what we are going to analyze today. So in here, the objective is to recall different methods that teachers can use to introduce and work with new language in different contexts and purposes. First, before we start presenting, before we have a pre-reading activity, before whatever, I need to have an introductory activity. These introductory activities can be divided into two groups, or two types, the warmer and the leading. There is a third kind of introductory activity, which is an icebreaker. The icebreaker only takes place in the first class of the semester or the school year. Is when the students get to know each other for the first time. I know my students, and I introduce myself and they introduce each other. So in this case, the icebreaker happens only once in a course. But the warmer and the lead-in are going to be present in every single class. At the very beginning of the session, as a class routine, I'm going to have a warmer. Is the way I'm going to start my class. I know that some of us start probably by calling the roll or checking the homework or whatever. Pero denme un segundito. So we need, according to the necessities my students have, and also according to the dynamic they have, I need to think and plan how I'm going to carry on with these icebreakers and these activities. So probably they spend time when moving from one room to another room. Probably it takes so long. Probably it's the first class in the morning, and some of them are latecomers because of different reasons. So I'm going to take advantage of that time to start working with some students, probably making a revision, checking the homework, etc., 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 and I can allow students to who haven't arrived yet to arrive into the classroom. Okay, so in here I can have a game, call the roll. I can I don't know, do something else. Make a revision, have a spelling bee, a dictation, a short discussion, whatever. And the leading is going to be the activity that I'm going to have before presenting the vocabulary, the grammar, as part of the pre-reading or the pre-listening. Is the activity that is going to set the context. Remember that it's important to contextualize the activities my students have. So they know exactly what kind of vocabulary and grammatical structures they are going to use in this lesson. Yes? So in here, the leading activity can be pues a story, an anecdote, picture, whatever. So if I'm going to talk about, no sé, will for future, probably I may start asking them if they believe in, or if they are very keen on the horoscopes. If they believe that it's possible to know about the future just by reading and making important decisions just by reading the newspaper and the horoscopes in the newspaper. All right. Entonces, the warm-up is the beginning of the class, and the leading is how I'm going to start, how I'm going to introduce the topic, and the following activity. Yes? All right. Questions about warmers and leading activities, you will see them very, very clearly in the following presentations we are going to see, okay? Now, types of presentations. We have different methods and approaches. We have, could be a video. Yes. But remember that in here, the students are not going to do anything. Probably it's just to contextualize. For example, no sé, if they are going to talk about the future of the planet, I can play a short video about natural disasters and make and say, well, okay, we are going to read an article about natural disasters. Okay, what natural disasters did you see in the video? Pues flood, earthquakes, whatever, etc. Yes. So it's for them to know exactly what is the topic of the class. The contextualization is the topic of the class. So yes, it can be a video, but very, very short. These activities, the leading and the warmer, shouldn't last more than, bueno, the warm-up depending on the number, but no longer than 8-7 minutes. And the leading activity is very, very quick, at least a minute. So if you consider that you can have the leading in 1 or 2 minutes by using a video, it's a fantastic idea. All right. In here we have different types of methods and approaches, okay? We have PPP, CPR, guided discovery, TTT, grammar translation, lexical approach, and TBL. Have you ever heard about them? Do you know something about these methods and approaches? A ver, PPP. It's like the very
Yes.
typical, no? Yes, yes, miss. Which one do you know? And which one do you use? I think that we are very familiar with PPP and TPR. And what about the others? Guided discovery, TTT, lexical approach, grammar translation, and TBL. Do you remember what they are about? Yes, we mostly know PPP and TPR are the classical ones. But today we are going to make a revision of all these methods. Task-based learning. Yes. Task-based learning is really fun. The students can produce a lot of things, and we can use this as part of our preparation of evidences. No, I know that some of you need to produce a portfolio by the end of the term, so you can work the evidences by working with the method of TBL. Entonces, we are going to start analyzing. We are going to watch some videos with some demos. And we are afterwards, we are going to comment every method. If you have any questions about each method, please feel free to ask opening your microphone or in the chat, okay? All right, so the first method we are going to analyze is TPR, Total Physical Response. It was created by Dr. James J. Asher, and it's the typical method our mothers used to teach us to speak. It's mainly acquisition. There is no grammar analysis. It's just listening. The silent period, which is very, very important because in this silent period, the students remember that are processing and analyzing the information. It's really kinesthetic. For the students who are very kinesthetic, it's going to be fantastic because they have different processes in their brain. So we can say that we are mostly used most of parts of the brain at the same time while doing this TPR. It develops listening skills. No writing, no reading, no speaking. But we can develop and we can enhance the development of body language and expressions, which is one of the sub-skills we have in speaking, okay? Entonces, we normally think that maybe, or we relate this TPR with children only. We say, no, pues TPR is only for children. Adults cannot be taught by using TPR, or we just limit the use of TPR to head and shoulders, knees and toes. But we can introduce other chunks of grammar by using this method. So we are going to watch a video. Please make notes, and then I'm going to share with you my notes, okay? Entonces, please let me know if you can listen to the video. A ver, espérenme. A ver, espérenme porque alguien quiere entrar. Vamos a ver.
Learners' feelings are also given importance.
Yes? Can you hear?
No.
No? A ver, espere.
Yes. The next method we
Ahí.
will see demonstrated.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Psychologist James Asher's method, total physical response, is being offered as an example of a general approach called the comprehension approach. The comprehension approach, as the name suggests, places value on students understanding the target language and thus emphasizes the listening skill. Other examples of this approach are Krashen and Terrell's The Natural Approach and Winitz's materials, The Learnables. Asher bases his method on the observation that a baby spends many months listening to the people around it, long before it ever says a word. The child has the time to try to make sense out of the sounds it hears. No one tells the baby that it must speak. The child chooses to speak when it is ready. Moreover, according to Asher, much of the linguistic input directed to the child contains commands. Look for how Asher's observations about child language acquisition have influenced his approach to second language learning. My colleague, Kathleen Graves, will present total physical response. Today we're going to learn about cleaning the house, something I'm sure that everybody loves to do. We all need to clean the house. Maybe not everybody loves to do it, but it is something we need to do. And in order to clean the house, we need a brush. Yep, we need a brush. We need a sponge, okay? We need a dust cloth. We need a vacuum cleaner, right? And we need a broom. Okay. Could I have someone come up here to the front and be a volunteer? Thank you very much, Hassan. Okay, Hassan, I'd like you to point to the vacuum cleaner. Okay, could you point to the sponge? Okay, could you point to the brush? Okay, could you point to the broom? That's right, could you point to the dust cloth? Okay, could you point to the broom? Okay, point to the vacuum cleaner. Okay, point to the sponge. Okay, point to the brush. Point to the vacuum cleaner. Point to the broom. Point to the dust cloth. Okay, good, thank you. Could you sit down? Okay, so I'd like the whole class to do that. Point to the dust cloth. Okay, point to the brush. Okay, point to the dust cloth. Okay, don't point to the brush. Okay, could you point to the vacuum cleaner, the broom, and then the dust cloth? Okay, could you point to the sponge, the vacuum cleaner, and then the brush? Okay, very good. Now, we're going to use the sponge to wipe the counter. Okay, now, we visited a house the other day, do you remember? And we saw here was the sink. This is the sink, and here was, this area was the counter. Okay, and we use the sponge to wipe the counter. Okay, so let's try this together. Watch me. I'm sweeping the floor. I'm vacuuming the rug. Okay, I'm scrubbing the sink. I'm wiping the counter, and I'm dusting the bookshelves. Okay. So let's just try the actions. Okay, could someone come up here and do the actions with me? Okay, Gideon, thank you. Okay, we don't need to use these. We can just pretend. Okay, we're going to sweep the kitchen floor. Sweep, right, okay? And then what will we do next? We'll wipe off the counter, okay? And then we're going to scrub the kitchen sink, okay? And then we're going to go into the living room and we're going to vacuum the rug. And then we're going to dust the bookshelves. Okay, so I'm just going to say something. We'll do it together. Dust the bookshelves. Okay, vacuum the rug. Okay, sweep the floor.
Scrub the sink. Okay. Wipe the counter. Okay, and did we forget one? Dust the bookshelves again. Okay, thank you very much. Could you sit down? Okay, now, everyone will do it together. How about if everybody stands up? Okay. So let's first vacuum the rug. Okay, dust the bookshelves. Okay, wipe the counter. Scrub the sink. Okay, and sweep the floor. Okay, good. Now, sweep the floor, then vacuum the rug. That's right. So we sweep the floor, and then we vacuum the rug. Okay, dust the bookshelf, then wipe the counter. Okay, so we dusted the bookshelf, and then we wiped the counter. Okay, scrub the sink, and then wipe the counter. Okay, so we scrub the sink, and then we wipe the counter. Okay, let's go into the living room, and we'll, yeah, thank you. Dust the bookshelves and vacuum the rug. Oh, good. You're very good house cleaners. That's great. Okay, why don't we sit down? Now, let's have, let's see, Enda, tell Gideon to scrub the sink. Okay, thank you. Gideon, tell Jesus to vacuum the rug. Okay. Jesus, tell Alphonse to wipe the counter.
Wipe the counter.
Okay. Alphonse, tell Abderrahmane to vacuum the rug.
Vacuum the rug.
Now, the next thing we have to do is I'm going to ask you to scrub the sink. Scrub the sink. Scrub the sink. Okay, now, we're going to scrub the sink quickly. Okay, now, scrub the sink carefully. Carefully, carefully, okay? Wipe the counter quickly. Okay, wipe the counter carefully. Okay. Sweep the floor carefully. Now sweep it quickly. Okay. Vacuum the rug quickly. Okay. Now vacuum it carefully. Carefully. Okay. Let's see. Scrub the sink quickly and then vacuum the floor carefully. Oh, good. Okay. Now, dust the bookshelves carefully and then vacuum the floor quickly. Okay. Vacuum the rug carefully, dust the bookshelf quickly, and then run into the kitchen and sweep the floor quickly. Uh-oh. Some people are dusting the floor. Some people are dusting the bookshelf carefully, and some are dusting it quickly. Vacuum the rug carefully, and then dust the bookshelf quickly. Okay, good job. Thank you. Okay, no, wait, don't sit down. Let's go into the kitchen now and scrub the sink quickly, wipe the counter carefully, and then sweep the floor carefully. Good job. Thank you very much. Please sit down. Sonia, wipe the counter carefully. Keep wiping. Yudi, while Sonia is wiping the counter, sweep the floor carefully and scrub the sink quickly. Okay. Now tell Sonia to stop wiping the counter.
Stop wiping.
Okay, good. Let's see. Anna Greta, tell Siti to dust the bookshelves quickly.
Dust the bookshelves quickly.
Okay. Edwin, while Siti is dusting the bookshelves, vacuum the rug carefully. Okay. Said, tell Edwin to stop vacuuming the rug.
Stop walking.
Okay, tell Siti to stop dusting the bookshelves.
Stop studying.
Let's ask some questions. Who likes to clean the house? Raise your hand. Aha. Hassan likes to clean the house. Maria likes to clean the house. Only 2 people? Okay. Maria and Hassan like to clean the house. Okay. Point. Who doesn't like to clean the house? Okay. Who doesn't like to clean the house? Raise your hand. Okay, you don't like to clean the house. You don't like to clean the house. You don't like to clean the house. You don't like to clean that. You don't like. Hassan, you don't like to clean the house. Okay. I like to clean the house. No, it's relaxing, you know. Okay, I like to clean the house. Who likes to clean the house? Raise your hand. Maria, oh, you like to clean. Does it like to clean the house? Like Yudi, Jesus, Horacio, Hassan, Maria, and we all like to clean the house. Okay, good. So point to someone who likes to clean the house. Right. Okay. Point to someone who doesn't like to clean the house. So this is some of the vocabulary that we learned today. Scrub the sink with a brush. We'll stay in the kitchen. Wipe. Wipe the counter. With a sponge, okay. Do you have any questions about any of these words?
Why do you use dust cloth?
Dust cloth?
Yeah, like that.
This is a dust cloth instead of a
Toilet, or yeah, it's not like a small toilet.
okay, a dust cloth. Okay, we also have a duster, something that looks with feathers. Okay, we have a duster, but it's very hard to find dusters now. It's very difficult to find dusters, so usually we just use a dust cloth. Okay. Yeah. Okay, then here's your homework. Now, I have all of the vocabulary we learned today on these sheets of paper, and I would like you to study it, and then in our next lesson, we will practice giving each other the commands, okay, telling each other to do these things, okay? So we'll pass the homework out. You take it, and you take it. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, so as you realized, this class was held with adults, and they are true beginners. We can deduce that they are very basic because they are not like very skillful when they are pronouncing and speaking. So this is the analysis I made with the class in the morning. So if you can think of something else, let's add it, okay? Don't copy, don't worry, because I'm going to give you the PDF with all the notes. So in this case, we had a leading activity. Remember, we have the warmer and the leading. Did you notice what was the leading activity? Could you recognize it? Remember that the leading activity is when you are setting the context and the topic of the class. The leading activity was when the teacher was asking them for if their preference about cleaning the house or not, if they liked it or not. In that moment, the students know immediately that they are going to talk about house chores. Then, at the beginning, she made a presentation of vocabulary. She was presenting the vocabulary, introducing very quickly all the elements she would need during the presentation. The main aim of this class was teaching either the vocabulary, but the commands, because even she mentions, next class we are going to practice giving the commands to each other. Then we have the activity was really ludic. They were having fun. It was a kind of game. So gamification is not only for younger learners. We can also gamify our lessons with adults and young adults. So in this case, because it's ludic, it changes the pace of the class. This is more relaxed, more friendly. They are not so afraid. They are not so serious. Probably they can enjoy more your class than other classes where they need to sit boringly, listening to the teacher, no? Because this is kinesthetic, it's fun, and it's more memorable. They are moving, they are playing, they are having fun, and because it is fun, they are going to remember what you are teaching easily. Because when they are having fun, their brain is producing these substances that from the limbic system, this endorphin and dopamine. So the emotions trigger the memories. They are going to remember easily the activity you held with them. And apart from the limbic system, what they are working is the parietal part of the brain, because they are paying attention. They need to be paying attention to each command in order to follow it. The temporal part, because they are listening and decoding meaning of what they are receiving as an input. In the cerebellum, they are going to be working with the motor skills. Gross motor skills. They need to jump, they need to pretend be doing something. The frontal part is in charge of the attention, the emotions, and making decisions. For example, she said quickly or slowly, and you made decisions, left or right. In this case, we are working with short chunks of grammar. They are not very long sentences. They are not paragraphs. They are not long pieces of listening. In this case, pues she was working with commands, adverbs of manner, and she was making a kind of revision of likes and dislikes. We can infer that she taught likes and dislikes previously, because they seem to react when she mentions this. They are able to give their opinion. And for example, in this case, what they are doing is having a very controlled practice of the language. The teacher is telling them exactly what they need to do, and they just need to obey. They are not producing language yet. In this case, the students feel more comfortable and self-confident, because pues they are not doing anything. Probably shy students who don't like to be moving or acting. Invite your students. There are some people who don't like acting, and they don't like taking part into these kind of activities. Don't allow anyone to be a part. if you realize that someone is not like participating, approach individually and invite that person to participate, to be part, even if he or she feel more secure. If you are next to him or her, and little by little, incorporate the person into the activity. They go
Sorry, teacher,
from very
did you
simple.
stop sharing your screen?
No.
I can see you, your screen.
A ver.
There you go,
Ahí.
there you go.
Yes.
Yes,
Y yo
teacher,
aquí
thank you.
apuntando y. Okay. They go from very simple to more complex chunks of language. Because she began with just the actions, and she ended up by adding the adverb of manner. So you can increase the difficulty like that. There is a speaking part when they need to give the command to each other. So you change the role of the interactional patterns. It's not the teacher and the students, probably can be student to student. So in this case, because they are just listening at the beginning, they can be paying attention, or they can be taught terms of pronunciation, intonation, interaction. Also, you can ask rescue previous knowledge. In the case of like and dislikes, she was rescuing this previous knowledge, or she was activating their schemata. They are recognizing, they are making this inference. The teacher never translated or never said something extra. For example, the girl who asked for the clothes, the duster and the duster, the teacher was even throwing in order to make the student have a clear idea of what the teacher was talking about. Probably she didn't. She said another word. The student said another word that is not like really something about the path or something like that. I don't remember quite well. But she was trying to make this connection, this relationship between the vocabulary she's acquiring and the possible meaning and the possible use. Then at the very end, they were having written practice as the homework. At the beginning, the students, when the teacher, I don't know why, but when the teacher is writing on the board, students feel that they need to copy everything. And probably in this case, I can tell my students, don't copy. I'm going to give you the vocabulary printed, and just observe the spelling and match the spelling with the pronunciation. So it continues being, or it's still input. They have written practice at the end. There's no communication between the students. There's not much production of conversations and so on. Everything is really, really controlled. The production, there's no production yet, despite there is a response from the students. So I'm giving you a command, but you are not giving me an oral or a written response. You are just reacting to what the teacher is saying, okay? So this is TPR. And we can realize that goes beyond a game, and it can also be used with adults. Not only, it's only a game for children. Something else that I can teach, for example, by using TPR, pues probably, yes, commands, verbs, adjectives, even vocabulary. I remember that there is an activity, very theatrical, and you have the vocabulary, no? So you can tell the students for revision, maybe, for revision of vocabulary, you can say, by using your body and no words, you are going to represent the item I told you, or you are going to represent the situation I'm going to describe to you. You need to be careful because you shouldn't be copying the positions or the actions your classmates do. So you need to be creative. So I said, how would you represent a ball? A ball. Entonces, pues probably my legs are the bottom part where you screw it and you put it into the lamp. And my hands can be the body of the bulb. And with my face, I can smile if it is on and be sad if it is off. No, something else. So it's very relaxing, it's very enjoyable, and memorable. It will last for longer time. Okay? Questions, comments about TPR? No? So it goes beyond head, shoulders, knees, and toes. We can even model longer sentences. All right, so now let's go with grammar translation. The grammar translation is not for all the students. They need certain knowledge of the word, experience with the language. They need to be proficient or almost proficient in L2, and they need to have a certain management of Spanish in order to recognize different elements in the grammatical structure. So students learn grammatical rules and they apply, before doing the grammar translation, they need to learn the grammatical rules and know how to use them. So they need previous knowledge. In that case, they can translate and interpret. So they can recognize the relationship or the translation from English to Spanish. So they are going to translate sentences from the L2 to the L1. It's not delivered in the class in Spanish. They normally read, analyze chunks of grammar, and then they translate them. Okay? So let's watch the video about the grammar translation.
Grammar Translation Method by Iván Ruiz and Francisco Machuca.
The grammar translation method was the predominant method of teaching a foreign language through the second half of the 19th century up until the second half of the 20th. But actually, the origins can be traced way back when the Earth was still believed to be flat, at some point between 1466 and 1536, when Erasmus of Rotterdam used it to produce an updated translation of the New Testament.
The method is clearly based on the assumption that language consists of structures and lexicon, and is learned by studying those elements and using them to translate sentences and longer texts. This way, foreign language learning was seen as a form of intellectual development through the study and analysis of grammatical structures of a language. contact with native speakers of a target language is not considered necessary or relevant for the purpose of this method. It has a teacher-centered approach since the authority in the classroom is the teacher and the learner has a passive role. Very little interaction between teacher and student or among students is seen in this kind of language learning method.
The main aim of the grammar translation method is to be able to read and translate classic literature on the target language. It was originally used to translate text from ancient Greek and Latin, both dead languages. It is for this reason that the spoken skills are regarded as not as important, and the focus is on reading and writing, especially in memorizing the grammar rules of the target language. The second goal is to develop mental discipline on the students, a quality that improves the efficiency of the learning process and allows them to work better.
Students translate a written passage from a target language into their native language. Students answer questions in the target language based on the understanding of a written passage. Students are given a series of sentences to be completed with words missing. Grammar rules are presented with examples. Once students understand a rule, they are asked to apply it to some different example. The grammar translation method focuses on 2 out of 4 of the main skills for second language learning, reading and writing. Additionally, it reinforces the learner's metalinguistic awareness and memory.
Okay, so this is about grammar translation. And as you can see, the role of the teacher is just monitor, providing guidance in L2. So as I said, it's not delivering the class in Spanish. The process is different. This grammar translation is very good when you have very reflective students. When they love analyzing how the grammatical structures are made and how they work. Mainly focused on reading and reading skills. There is no communication at all. Very good for interpersonal analytic students. Not memorable at all because there's no emotion. It's like very simple, flat, así, concentration, isolated, like very flat. I would say like very flat, really repetitive, traditional, yes. It looks for patterns, how the grammar structures are made, enough experience of knowing the structure, how the sentence is made, and the use is needed, and also experience in the world. They need enough development of reading skills and writing. They need to infer, not only translating word by word, because we have seen that that doesn't work. In real life, it doesn't work. We don't read like that. We don't read word by word like mi, ma, me, ma, mucho. We don't read like that. We read complete ideas. So these metacognitive and cognitive abilities in reading and writing should be really, really well built and structured. There's no communication, no interaction, no emotions. It's very traditional, super, hyper memoristic. And because you need to memorize in order to solve a specific activity in this class, pues the knowledge and this practice, pues just for short-term memory. To be honest, this is not my hit. I'm not very keen on grammar translation. Actually, I don't use it because I don't like it. Because I'm more kinesthetic. And I consider that we learn by doing, by experimenting, by listening, by writing, by reading, by doing other things. And just like this, and even more if our students are not used to reading. Entonces they are going to find it really, really boring. Probably I can work with it with a specific, no sé, idioms or phrases or very special things. In that case, for example, idioms, you can teach the idiom and try to make a translation or an interpretation in Spanish. No, sometimes we have those similarities, yes, but in that case, the teacher would need to prepare carefully the text that is going to present to the students. So you cannot say, pues hoy se me olvidó planear la clase. Today they are going to have grammar translation. Lean el párrafo de la página 3 y translate. No, you need to prepare carefully the activity, to have a purpose, to have very, very clear what is the objective, what you are looking for. For example, recognizing and realizing that idioms exist in English and in Spanish. So they are going to match, or they are going to recognize some idioms and they are going to transfer them, make the transference to English from Spanish. And they will realize about the cultural stuff that some says or some phrases that come from the oral tradition in the countries have similarities. So probably that would be a purpose. So I have a specific and clear purpose. I cannot ask the students to translate así de la nada because that is not the correct thing. Okay? What do you think about grammar translation? Do you like it? Yes, I'm going to give you the links. Yes, don't worry. I will. All right. Next. PPP. I think that this is the most popular, the method that is the mainly used in all the classrooms. And well, the traditional one, no? We have 3 stages: the presentation, the practice, and the production. Depending on the length of the session, we are going to have the 3 stages, or we can have 2 or 1 in one session, the other one in another session, and the production in another session. Another thing that I can combine, depending on the aim and the objective, I can combine different methods and approaches. So I can have TPR in a PPP with a PPP presentation and grammar translation, because they are going to translate, no sé, ¿qué será? Phrasal verbs, ¿no? So I can have different combinations. It's not only having a TPR activity for one lesson, the other one for the other lesson, and so on. In this case, pues I can have 1, 2, 3, or the 4 skills developed at the same time in the same lesson. I can have the input first, reading and listening. They can have writing for practice and oral for production, or oral for practice and writing for production, depending on what I'm going to teach, okay? So this is a little bit long, yes, but I think that in this class, the stages and the processes are very clear, and you will realize about things and items we need to include in our lessons that we have discussed previously, okay?
Hello everyone, how are you today? Good. What's my job?
You're a teacher.
Why do you think so?
Because we're
That's good, you're learning, that's good. Okay, it's not my first job, I've had a lot of other jobs actually. Actually, I've got a list here of jobs. Some of them I really have done, and some of them I haven't done. In case you can't see it, it's teacher, pizza chef, salesman, doctor, and nursery nurse. So I want you to try and speak with me now as a group, and just tell me which ones you think really were my jobs and which ones are not my job. Anyone want to make a comment? Yeah.
I doubt that you are a doctor.
I've never worked as a doctor, that's correct. Yes?
A nursery nurse?
I've never worked as a nursery nurse, that is correct.
I can see you as a salesman.
Well, I have worked as a salesman.
I don't think you were a pizza chef.
Pardon?
I don't think you were a pizza chef.
In fact, I have worked as a pizza chef. Okay, so this is what I would like you to do. Take a piece of paper, write down a few jobs that you have done and a few jobs you haven't done, and then speak with your partner. Just show your partner like that. And then partner, you should say if you think she has done the job or she hasn't done the job, just for a few minutes. So is everyone going to write a list?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Is it just going to be jobs you have done?
No.
Okay. And what will you do when your partner shows you their list?
Yes, which
Yes.
ones they've done.
Okay, that's great. I'll start you off when I can see everyone's got the list, but you can plan it now. Okay, are you ready? You only need a few, so when you're ready, speak together, show your list, and just decide together if you think he's done that job or she's done that job or not. Yeah, true. Not being a not being a newspaper.
Oh my god, you make a really
Okay, let me interrupt you there.
Yeah, I was going to say.
So I'll just come to one or two groups to hear.
That's your question.
Sorry to interrupt. So how about this pair? Which jobs has he done? Which jobs has he not done?
So he has been a traffic counter.
Traffic counter. Click, click, click on the cards.
Yeah.
Okay.
He has been a stamp licker. He has not been a toad handler. And he has been a copy sub-journalist.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to teach you some more words connected with jobs now. Do you know what this man is doing? What's his job?
He's Neil Armstrong.
Okay, what does Neil Armstrong do?
He's an astronaut.
Yeah. Listen, astronaut. Say it together. Astronaut.
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 Can you say? Astronaut. Good.
Astronaut.
Good.
Astronaut.
Good, okay. So, does an astronaut fly a normal plane or does he go into space?
Space.
In space, do you need your normal clothes or a special suit?
Special suit.
Okay, that's good. This is how you write the word. Astronaut. 3 syllables. Where's the stress?
No.
The beginning, yes. Astronaut. Astronaut. Good. Okay. Now, can you see what this lady's doing? Cashier, teller. I'm thinking of a word beginning with shop. Assistant, yes. Listen. Shop assistant.
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 Good.
Shop assistant.
Good. Now, does a shop assistant buy things from customers or sell things to customers?
Sell things.
Okay, good. Is she the manager?
No.
Normally not. Okay, good. You write it like this. The first word is stress. Shop. Now the second word has 3 syllables. Where's the stress? Assistant. Good. Assistant. Listen. Shop persistent. Shop persistent. Say.
Shop assistant.
The p and the a make a syllable. Shop assistant. Now, what does this man do?
Farmer.
Yeah, listen. Farmer.
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 Good?
Farmer.
Good? Farmer. Good. Okay. Now, does a farmer work in a factory or does he grow food?
Grows food.
Okay. Does he often work indoors or often work outdoors?
Outdoors.
Good. This is how you write it. Okay. Where's the stress? First syllable or second syllable?
First.
Yeah. Farmer. Can you see this one? Yeah. It's okay. It could be painter, yeah. I'm thinking of the word artist today. But he is a painter as well. Say artist.
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 Good. You write it like this. Where's the stress? First. Artist. Sorry about the sound. What does he do? Bus driver, yeah. Listen. Bus driver.
Bus driver.
Bus driver.
Bus driver.
Say?
Bus driver.
Good.
Bus driver.
Bus driver.
Good. Now, does a bus driver normally drive a very small car or a bigger vehicle?
Bigger vehicle.
Only his family or also the public? Public, good, yeah. 2 words. There's a stress on bus. And then, where's the stress on the second word? Driver, yeah. Bus driver. Ow! Don't worry.
Doctor.
doctor, yeah, listen. Doctor. Doctor. Together, doctor.
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 Good. So, does the doctor work to improve your health or to improve your money situation? Your health, yeah, that's true, yeah. Can he help with money?
No. He can help spend it.
Yeah, spend it. Written like this. Where's the stress? Doctor. Doctor.
Oh.
Doctor on the whole syllable. Doctor. To be or not to be?
Dramatic.
Poet.
That is the question.
Actor.
Someone say actor, yeah. Actor. Together? Actor.
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 Good.
Actor.
Good.
Actor.
Is Tom Cruise an actor?
Yes.
Okay. Does an actor only show you real life, or do they sometimes show you other stories?
Other stories.
On television, maybe?
Yes.
Yes.
In the theatre?
Yes.
Good. It's written like this. Where's the stress? Actor, first syllable. Who's this?
Dentist.
Yeah. Listen, dentist.
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 Good.
Oh.
You say-
Dentist.
Yeah.
Dentist.
Good. Dentist. Good. Does a dentist work on your teeth or on your hands? Teeth, yeah. Is it painful or enjoyable?
Painful.
Really? Okay. Yeah, me too. I find it painful. It's written like this. Where's the stress? Yeah. Dentist. Now, in a minute, you're going to practice these words so you can learn them and remember them. Words that we learn together, you're now going to use them in an activity. I'm going to give you this paper, and you need to read a sentence like this one. A something is a person who goes into space, and you need to remember, or from your notes, what is the correct answer. So, what is the correct answer?
Astronaut.
Yeah, good, astronaut. So, so you need to read the sentence, and then are you just going to say the word or write the word in here?
Right.
Is there only one answer or more than one answer?
Right.
Okay, and I'd like you to do this by yourself, please. Also, can you tell me what you have for number 2, please?
A dentist is a person who fixes your teeth.
Dentist, that's correct, yeah. And what do you have for number 3?
A bus driver is a person who drives a bus.
Great, that's correct, yeah. What do you have for number 4?
A farmer is a person who grows vegetables and other foods.
Excellent, good. What do you have for number 5?
A shop attendant is a person who works in a shop.
Could say attendant, yeah. Today we said shop assistant.
Shop assistant.
Thank you. And what do you have for number 6?
A doctor is a person who helps sick people to get better.
Right, thank you. What do you have for number 7?
An artist is a very creative person who paints and makes other beautiful things.
Thank you, that's true, correct. And what do you have for number 8?
A doctor is a person. An actor is a person who performs in movies or in theatres.
Great, thank you. Well done, that's true. We're going to do one more practice now. You'll find the language on the back of this paper. So, can you see the questions on your paper? They're here as well. For example, is anyone in your family an astronaut? Is anyone in your family an astronaut?
Yes.
Yes, really? No. That's amazing. Okay, ask me a question. Choose any question from the list. And what are you going to put in here? Yeah, one of the 8 words that we learned today, you put in here. You can choose. So ask me a question.
Would you like to be a doctor?
Not really. It's a very good profession, but I think the hours are long. Who wants to ask a question? One of these questions. Yeah.
Is it difficult to become an astronaut?
I think it's very difficult, yeah. So I hear. Very difficult. Ask a question.
How long does it take to become an actor?
Well, some people are born like it, other times they train. So, in your pairs, ask and answer these questions together. Is there only one correct answer here?
No.
Can you choose which one?
Yes.
Are you going to tell the truth about yourself and your beliefs, your opinions? Yeah, tell the truth. Speak together for a few minutes.
Yes. Now, would you like to be a bus driver? Okay. Is it difficult to become a doctor?
Yes. Very difficult.
How long does it take to become a dentist?
Many years. About 4 or 5 years.
Okay, let me touch there. Let me just hear one or two. Let me hear one or two things your partner told you. Can you remember something your partner told you? Just tell me something.
Yes. Would you prefer to be an actor or a shop assistant?
And what did she say?
Absolutely actor.
Okay, well, cool. Interesting choice. Anyone else? Yeah, what did you?
He asked, would you prefer to be a bus driver or a dentist?
And
he said dentist because he's ruled by money.
He's ruled by money. Very interesting. Okay, thank you very much. Huh?
Very disappointed. You went worldwide.
Yeah.
Lord.
Okay. Now imagine you're a student. You finished your studies, and your mum says to you, "I want you to go to the job fair." Why does she want you to go there? Do you think?
Get a job.
Okay. What happens at a job fair?
You have several jobs, and then you look and see which one suits you best, your personality and things you're willing to do. You get more details
Exactly,
about
yeah.
the job.
You talk to people, don't you? And you find out about the job. Okay, so imagine you go to the job fair, you look around everywhere, and you come back and you speak to your mum or your dad. Sanele, you're my son, and I'm going to ask you what jobs you saw and what jobs you think you like, which jobs you think you don't like. And again, you can use the 8 words we learned today and other words for jobs if you know them. So astronaut, farmer, shop assistant, all those jobs. Sanele, how was the job fair? Tell me, did you see some jobs you like there?
Yes.
Which ones?
I would like to be a dentist.
Really, why?
Just to inflict pain.
Okay. A dentist is a great career. I see you more as an astronaut.
I don't really like the space.
Really? Okay. Have you been there before?
No.
Okay. Thank you very much. So, is this a real life, or are you going to imagine something? Are you going to talk to yourself or to your partner? Are you at the job fair, or have you come back from the job fair? One of you needs to be a parent, one of you needs to be a recent graduate. Okay? After a few minutes, change over so both people do both jobs, okay? We've got about 5 minutes for this.
It was so cool. Oh my god. I had this one guy with a helmet and I think he went to space.
Okay, so I told you that this video would be very long, but we have all the stages, and many steps described in here. For example, in the PPP, first we had the leading activity. Could you recognize the leading activity in this presentation? Is when the teacher asks the students to guess his previous jobs, just to infer what he could have probably done before being a teacher. So in this case, he is telling them about the topic of the class. Then he had the presentations stage. In the presentation stage, he was introducing the models. Something in here. When he was setting the context, he was also personalizing. What does that mean? That he was asking the students for his own experience and their own preferences. So in that case, they can be totally involved in the presentation. All right. Then they had the presentation. He was introducing the models. He was eliciting. He was checking the understanding or checking the concept. By making questions to check that they are really getting, well, in this case, obviously the presentation was not appropriate for the level of the students. The way they were speaking, they had a higher level. But in this case, when you are presenting a new vocabulary, for example, chemistry, can you buy, no sé, a pair of tennis shoes in the chemistry? Can you buy a loaf of bread? No. What do you buy in the chemistry? Or in the pharmacy, you buy medicines, or you can buy diapers, or you can buy some shampoo. So this is the kind of questions or reasoning you make in order to check the concept and clarify the meaning of each model. This is very important because individually you are contextualizing each word. And he is also introducing the pronunciation. He was modeling, the students were repeating chorally and individually, so the teacher could monitor and check how well they were pronouncing the words. He was presenting orally, but also he wrote each model on the board. In that case, the students can match the written word with the correct pronunciation, and also the teacher was presenting the stress. If you remember, when we were talking about teaching vocabulary, we mentioned that it's important to present these items, no? When introducing new vocabulary, the pronunciation, probably the phonemic symbols, and the intonation or the stress. Afterwards, they had practice. In this case, the teacher was not introducing grammar. He was presenting just vocabulary. So after the presentation, they have the practice. They had practice, yes, oral when repeating in chorals and individuals, when they were reading the word, for checking the spelling, and he was rescuing previous knowledge, schemata. They were practicing speaking. In this case, the activity was really, really controlled because in all the cases, the teacher was controlling the activity. The students were not producing anything new, anything that the teacher was not asking them to say. And even the written exercise they needed to read the definition and write the correct word. So that is very, very controlled. Something else that I noticed, and I don't know if you consider them important, is the delivery of instructions. When he delivered the instructions, he was constantly checking, asking them. So he could make sure that the students got all the instructions he was giving. Afterwards, he had a semi-controlled activity. He had several questions, and the students needed to give their own answers. So now the answer is not controlled like reading the definition and write the word. In this case, you have different options, but still is controlled by the teacher because the questions are made by the teacher as well. Even they receive a piece of paper with the questions. Finally, in the production, pues they are interacting freely, the activity is more communicative, they are practicing different skills, they maybe practice speaking, writing, pronunciation, intonation, interaction, body language, asking for repetition, agreeing, disagreeing. If it is writing, for example, describe your ideal job, no? Pues in that case, you are using grammar, vocabulary, elements in a paragraph, no sé, the sentence formation, capitalization, punctuation, etc. So we can have different objectives. That's why I need to have very, very clear so the production doesn't take too long. And also in the production is when the teacher is going to be observing and making this formative assessment. I have my criteria based on what I'm pursuing in this class, and I'm grading. So I'm going to not grading, evaluating. So I decide whether the objective was achieved, if they probably need extra practice or help, or probably I need to introduce again the vocabulary, or if they need more or less. So in the evaluation, I have the parameter. I know that if they are doing well or if they don't. In here, the interactional patterns also are different. It's not only the teacher and the students. They are working all together. For example, if they are in the practice, what they can do is check before checking all together to provide the feedback, pues you can ask them, a ver, compare your answers with your partners, in trios, in pairs, then you check all together as a classroom and you provide feedback, yes? And well, because you have different activities, the pace and the mood of the class is constantly changing, is memorable, is fun, and because it's memorable and fun, the The knowledge, the experience will last for longer time than just memorizing and repeat, así, parroting, okay? Yes? So in general, are some of the elements we could discuss more when using PPP. For example, in this case, I can introduce or I can present the vocabulary of jobs by asking them to mime the job. For example, doctor, like this, no? Checking the heart, or teacher, or painter, or astronaut. I don't know. Then when they represent the movement or the mime, you ask them to repeat, you ask for chorals, individuals, you check. For example, there was a student who said shop teller. And then the teacher corrected and he said shop assistant. Shop assistant. So that is also valid. If you have students that have a higher level, or probably that no higher level, they have more experience with the language, more experimented students, pues probably you can guide the model to him. You can ask him, excellent, can you repeat? And he says, shop assistant. Okay, everybody repeat. And it's not you who is giving the instruction, it's someone else. And they are listening to other pronunciation, to a different voice. And it's also valid. So they are learning from each other. It's collaborative learning. And it's good to take into account someone else's experience. Okay, so this can be very, very motivating. Yes? The following is TTT. This is one of my favorites. And normally we do it in the class, but maybe we don't realize. We are not like very conscious. So in here, the TTT means test, teach, test. Test, teach, test. In here, we are tackling directly the students' needs. We are covering them. We need to rescue and evaluate the previous knowledge to check if it's totally understood, or if the students need another explanation, or even if they need further practice. We have implicit the remedial work. The remedial work is when you present and you realize that it's not really well understood, so you represent again, probably by using another method, different material, and a different context. Constant evaluation. Remember that evaluation is not only for getting the grades. We need to be observing and checking and monitoring our students. Yes, so it's part of the evaluation. How I'm going to realize that my students are improving just because I'm constantly evaluating them. And in here, pues it's a guidance for the teacher because I know how well they are doing. So let's analyze TTT.
Do you find planning lessons stressful? If so, today I'll tell you how to plan your lesson using the approach test, teach, test. Hey everybody, you're watching my YouTube channel where I talk about teaching foreign languages. So if you are new here, you may consider subscribing. So let's talk in detail how to plan your lesson using test, teach, test approach. Here are stages and aims of your lesson. The first stage is leading. You may show your students a video or ask them some questions in order to generate interest of target language. The next one is test. Here you may give your students exercises such as fill in the gaps, categorizing, ask your students to rank vocabulary, answer questions, or maybe transform sentences, etc. And the purpose is to understand what your students know and what they do not know. Actually, you test them. The third stage is feedback, and also it is called teach. Here you teach your students and you give, of course, feedback on the first test, and you teach problem areas. The next one is test. Again, you may give your students exercises such as to ask your students to fill in the gaps, rank vocabulary, answer questions, categorizing, gap fill, etc. And your purpose is to provide students with controlled practice using target language, and again to understand and to see your students' progress. And the last stage is freer practice. Here you may have some talks, discussions, role plays, etc. And of course the aim is to provide students with freer practice using target language. Have you ever?
Surely we have used this method. As I said before, probably we know the methodology, but with a different name, or probably we don't recall the name, but we are very familiar with them, okay? So in this case, I really like to use this. I constantly use it in my classes, because I like taking into account the process, the process my students are having. Every single step, I'm observing them. I'm evaluating, I'm taking into account. I have a lot of notebooks because I have a notebook for one class, another notebook for another class, and I divide sometimes the notebooks per student. So, well, those are individual students. When I was teaching in the primary, I had my special notebook for this class, and I made my quick copy of the lesson plan that I needed to deliver online, and I had some post-its, and I had I'm going to show you tomorrow my stuff for making notes, and you can follow the track of your students in that way. So in here again, we have a leading activity in order, I wouldn't say to trigger students' interest. In this, we can, more than triggering and fostering the interest of my students, is to activate, the brain es como click, the schemata, rescue previous knowledge, and contextualize, okay? In this case, for example, the leading can be recalling what we made. For example, okay, no sé, can be a game, tic-tac-toe, with verbs, for example. We are going to test, this week we saw, we analyzed present simple, some everyday activities, habits and routines. So as the leading activity, I can play a tic-tac-toe or hangman or spelling bee with the verbs. So I'm activating, I'm starting the gene, the mental gene in my students. Then I'm going to deliver the test. No necessarily, I don't say, a ver, chicos, saquen una hoja y pónganle el nombre, because they immediately, we match, or we think about exam, evaluation, pass and fail with test. Is TTT because it's the way the method says, but I would say exercise. I would say practice, controlled practice. So I deliver the handouts. I give them the instructions to develop the activity, because this test can be oral or can be written. For example, I can ask them, talking about the habits and routines, I can ask them to describe each other 3 activities or 3 routines they do every single day or every week, or during the weekend. To say 2 activities they do in the weekend and 2 activities they do during the week. So what the teacher is going to do, take the post-its or take the notebook and start monitoring and making notes. Híjole, the S, no, they are omitting the S, or no, the pronunciation of this, ay no, se les cuatrapea this one or this one. They are omitting this, pronunciation, intonation, I don't know. I make the notes, this test, each test goes or is really, really related to the main objective. If my main objective when I made my presentation was the students may be able to describe habits and routines, I need to go to the main objective of the lesson. And based on that objective, that is going to be the criteria I'm going to use to decide, to evaluate if the students do it or they don't do it. If they are committing mistakes, for example, they are going to talk about habits and routines, about their own habits and routines. Entonces, in this case, if they say she go to the gym, pues it's not important because even they are not going to be using that structure. They are going to talk about in first person, or they are going to talk about their own personal routine. So having that in mind, I'm going to be observing and making notes about what they are not achieving yet. Based on that, based on the mistakes or errors they are committing, I'm going to provide the feedback and I'm going to reteach. What does that mean? I'm going to make a remedial work. Okay, guys, remember that when we are talking about this and this and that, we use this and this and that, and we write it like this. Probably I make a revision of the formula, or probably I decide to have the teach by using other examples and a different context. So probably by changing that that stuff is going to be easier for my students to understand. Entonces, I check, I give them a task. I revise, we check, I know exactly what their mistakes are. I teach again, I provide the feedback, and again, I give them another exercise, different from the first one. Again, if I decide to have the first test oral, the second test can be oral or can be written. I can combine oral, 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 written, written, oral, or written, written, as I decide. And this needs to be productive, because I'm going to check how skillful I'm going to check the level of management they have in vocabulary or in grammar. And again, I check if it is already done, or probably if I would need to change again and reteach it once more. So the teacher makes notes, decide based on the criteria I'm using to present the language in another context or different way and easier, and if it is okay. So this is mainly for evaluation, and remember, evaluation doesn't mean necessarily grades and exams. and it's a good parameter for you. So I can mix it in here. I have my presentation, I have the practice, the production, I check if they, in here, this free activity can be the test. I check if they really understood. If so, pues I continue with the following test, or I practice more, I re-explain, and then again, they produce something. So I can be checking. Entonces in here, I'm linking or I'm using PPP and TTT together. All right, this is the way I'm going to combine different methods, okay? Questions? Comments? No? All right. This is TBL, task-based learning. Someone in the chat said that you were familiar with this method. You can use this as the test you are going to use to check that your students have already understood, or even you can give them the practice, the free practice. You have the remedial work, and as a test again, you can have a task, a different task, so it's not boring, and it's more interesting and interactive, okay? So I have interactive tasks, because they are going to be communicating. They are going to work in pairs or in small teams or in big teams. I'm promoting the teamwork, the organization, and this development of the 21st century skills, which are the soft skills. Planning, deducing, organizing, critical thinking, convincing, negotiating, etc., etc. It's free. Yeah, in here, the practice, although you give the context, they produce the language as they consider it's okay. And in here, again, the observation of the student, of the teacher is essential. You are going to be observing and analyzing, okay? So that's why you can use it as part of the test, teach, test, okay?
Hello TEFL students. In this video, I'm going to demo for you a task-based learning activity. The topic is planning a party. This topic can be used with a wide range in ages and levels with adjustments. The structure of the video follows 4 stages: the pre-task, task preparation, during task, and post-task. Let's get started. Step 1 is the pre-task. The pre-task stage should mentally and linguistically prepare your students for the upcoming task ahead. There are many ways to do this. In this demo, I show you 3 ideas.
Okay, what makes a good party? Jorge? Okay, food.
Idea number 1 would be the use of brainstorming with a word web.
Okay, in your groups, I want you to keep going, okay? Keep going. What do you think? What are some things that make a good party?
Brainstorm idea number 2 would be the use of pictures and/or discussion questions.
Okay, let's take a look at picture number 1. What are they doing? Good, all right? They are ordering, all right? They're ordering food for the party. Good. Another one.
And perhaps the most common activity would be idea number 3, having your students read or listen to a model text that mimics the language they will use in the task ahead.
Look at the picture of the people. What do you think we're going to listen to? Yes, all right? We're going to listen to them plan a surprise party. Good, good.
In stage 2, you will prepare your students to be able to complete the upcoming task on their own. In order to do this, you need to give very clear directions. I commonly give each group one piece of paper with a step-by-step handout or a checklist for them to follow.
First, I want everyone to get into groups of 3. All right, first get into your groups. You're gonna follow the handout. And then after, give us maybe 15 minutes. Okay, you're gonna present your party idea to the class. Are you guys excited? All right, it's gonna be fun. Let's get started.
In this important stage, students begin to independently build their task. Group collaboration and creativity take hold, and generally it's the fun and exciting part of the task. I quietly circulate around the room and make note of any weak or strong language features on a clipboard. Make sure that you encourage use of the target language. After this, the students will then act or present out their tasks. It's the point where I hope they proudly display their creativity and stretch their language abilities in doing so. As a teacher, I continue to remain low-key and continue to quietly take notes on the language being used. It's a fluency activity, so I don't commonly interrupt unless asked for help. If set up well, the stage is fun and engaging for everyone. When I'm done, my clipboard is often covered. To keep me organized, I take notes into categories. Only the most important language features get addressed. Always point out both strong and weak language features. To complete the activity, I address those key language features on the board with the class, and we reflect on the language we've learned through completing the task. This concludes my demo video. Please note.
Okay, so I really like this one because this is very dynamic, and the students
There are many ways to execute task-based learning.
Can do many things, and also it enhances the creativity. That is also another important sub-skill. All right. PBL. So we have a leading activity. So again, we are going to set the context. What the topic of the class will be. What will be the theme of the conversation this day, okay? So in that case, also I activate schemata, rescue previous knowledge, and also I'm preparing my students for the following activity, okay? Then I have the pre-task. In this case, pues I have in advance again the main objective of my activity. What is the result? What I'm going to be looking for? What is the final product? What is the criteria I'm going to use to evaluate this task? Okay, so the students will be focused on this final product, but also they will be aware about the little steps they are going to take in order to achieve this goal. So in the pre-task, pues they can recall vocabulary, grammar. It can be orally written through a reading or through a listening. Okay, so they recall the form and the use of grammar, the spelling, the pronunciation, intonation, or vocabulary. In this case, again, I can provide correction, I can provide feedback, because they are going to be using this grammar and this vocabulary during the presentation of the task. Then they are producing, they start working together. You give them the task. You also need to be very clear in the delivery of the instructions. Even I would use the instructions as a sort of list or a checklist. So they know step by step what they have to do, and they can check if they are following correctly the steps or not. So they can write, they can speak, they can discuss, agree, disagree. In this case, they are developing a lot of skills and a lot of soft skills. They can recall, revise, check spelling, or they can recall the form, the format in case they need to write something special or produce something special, interact, plan, decide, set goals, organize their time. If, for example, the task is for more than 1 or 2 classes, you can help them to organize their time and their activities by using these Gantt graphic organizers. So they know exactly the roles, the periods of time, and it helps them to improve their skills when they are working in teams. And also you avoid this typical problem de, ay, Pepito no hizo su parte, y blah, blah, blah. Everyone needs to be responsible because everything is stated and written in the Gantt graphic organizer, okay? Now the presentation, during the presentation, they are going to produce the language. They are going to use the grammatical structure you were analyzing or the vocabulary in a specific context. In here, pues because they are going to make a presentation, also they develop this body language and gesturing to convey the meaning of what they are saying in order to convince, in order to ask for clarification, in order to, I don't know, to set this communicative two-way flowing, so they can connect with their audience, and they can provide extensive answers, they can improvise. For example, if someone asks them something that probably is not very clear, they go beyond the script they made and they need to give further information, that is extend the answers. So in here, probably they would need to copy between them what they are presenting. They need to be organized. They need to be very well prepared. And in here also, if they don't know exactly how to provide information or how to explain in other words, pues they can improvise. Not inventing Chinese stories, but probably explaining things in another way, not in the way it is written or prepared. And in here, again, the evaluation can be formative. And remember that formative evaluation can be transformed into summative evaluation. If you noticed in the video, the teacher divided the notebook into 4 columns, and she was evaluating these 4 sub-skills. Probably in here, I would add the standard for each one, because otherwise, if I just divide it and I just listen and correct, is subjective evaluation. So probably something that for me may be correct, for her may be incorrect. So to standardize, I suggest you to use rubrics and very specific criteria and share the criteria with your students so they can have co-evaluation and self-evaluation. All right. Questions about task-based learning? For me, it's really, really complete. Now, guided discovery. This is also one of my favorites. In here, the teacher provides the students with clear examples of chunks of grammar, can be long or can be short. The students need to analyze and find the structure and the rules, the form and the intention. Yes? It promotes independency in our students. It makes them autonomous, and it makes them be aware of their own progress. So that's why it's memorable and meaningful for them, because they will feel that they will feel and they will see how well they are doing, how capable now they are. Okay, so let's watch the video.
Hello and welcome again. My name's Joga Conga and this is another video for elttraining.com. This month we're going to be looking at an introduction to guided discovery learning. Now you might be asking this question, and the answer to it is that guided discovery learning is a way of presenting language, particularly grammar. So we've got two approaches to presenting new language. We can use a deductive approach, or we can use an inductive approach. So the deductive approach is one like this, where the teacher gives a rule first and then asks the students to give an example from that rule, like this. This has got its origins way back in Aristotelian deductive reasoning, if you're interested. So all men are mortal, says Aristotle. Socrates is a man, therefore Socrates is mortal. So it's this kind of idea. We work from the rule to deduce the examples. Now an inductive approach is a bit different. Here we start with examples of language and we look at it for patterns, usually with some help of some questions from the teacher. So in this approach, we start with the examples and work towards finding out the rules. And it's the questions that the teacher asks which makes it a guided discovery approach. So here's an example. If we're introducing the past tense to a group of low-level learners, then we might give them a simple text like this and ask them to underline all of the verbs, and then they'll notice, of course, that they all end in ed. We might then afterwards give them another piece of text like this, which doesn't conform to the rules, to show them that there are irregular verbs as well. Now this is also called a noticing approach, or it's sometimes also called consciousness raising. So what are the advantages and disadvantages of this approach? Is it any better than a deductive approach? Well, the research evidence is actually very mixed. Some trials have shown that it works well and some that it works not so well. So there's probably not a right answer to this, as with many things in teaching, but it does seem likely that if you work out a rule yourself, it's more likely to be memorable for you. So I think that's the big potential plus of this. It also gives learners practice in identifying patterns, so potentially this makes them better learners. And then there's this one, and this to me is the big advantage, is that it does stop a kind of grammar lecture by the teacher, so chalk and talk presentation. It makes learners more active, and that's, I think, got to be a good thing. The downsides, well, some learners just don't like it. This might be a personal thing, it might be a cultural thing, it might be to do with level also. Some just don't like it so much. It's quite demanding for a teacher. So you have to be quite flexible, you have to have a good knowledge of language yourself, and you have to be able to find good examples that work well for this. So it is quite demanding on the teacher. The other potential big problem is that some grammar rules just aren't that tidy. Some work really well with this approach, but some just don't. So let's have an example to show you what I mean. If we look at the present perfect, which is notoriously a horrible animal, we've got examples like this. I've seen him this week, I saw him last week, and the learners go, okay, yeah, I can see the pattern. We use the present perfect for unfinished time and the simple past for finished time. Well, that's often true, but then you give them another example like this, and they can see that actually those rules don't always work at all. So let's have a look at some examples that do work well. This approach tends to work best where the meaning is quite straightforward, but the form is complicated. Comparatives and superlatives are a good example of this. The meaning isn't difficult, but there are lots of different forms. So we could give the learners examples like this, ask them to underline the adjectives, and give them some questions for them to find out, to guide them to the rules there. Question tags are another great example. The meaning's really easy here, and in many languages the form's really straightforward too. Unfortunately not in English. So you could give some examples and then ask questions to support the learners to find out the rules. So this would be about the positive and negative nature of the auxiliaries, and then you could go on to ask them which auxiliary we use. Articles are another grammatical feature of English where the meaning's not usually that important, but the form is horrendous. When do we use our? When do we use the? It seems to be completely arbitrary for learners perhaps, and there are so many different rules. Here in this example, you could elicit that the first time we mention something we use our, and after that we use the when we know which one we're talking about. Other examples: conditionals, determiners with count and non-count nouns. Have you got any apples? Yes, I've got some. Word order with adverbs of frequency. I always go, but I am always late. The back shift of tenses in reported speech. Anything where the form is very rule-bound works well. Just a word of caution before we finish. Remember that this is about presenting language, making sure the learners know the way the language works. This doesn't mean because they know it they'll be able to use it. They'll still need lots of practice to do this. So I hope that that's been a little bit helpful and has given you an idea of what guided.
So I really like it because they work on their own. I consider that the students are very independent. So this part she says that about the students may not like it. I don't think so. Probably at the beginning, they may feel like afraid, because they are not used to work like they are not used to working in this way. No, they are used to receiving the information from the teacher. And probably they may say that they are doing your job, no? But little by little, and that's why you need to explain in advance what they are going to do. So it will make your students more confident and relaxed at the moment of dealing with the activities, okay? So in this case, we have guided discovery. Again, I need to have the leading activity with a very clear context. So the students can infer exactly either the meaning or the use, depending on what I want to work with them. If they are going to be making deductions or it is going to be an inductive activity, because there are two ways to do the guided discovery. The deductive is when the teacher presents the form, the formula, and because of the contextualization, they infer the use or the intention. I need to provide different examples, so the students can really see and notice the intention, okay? If necessary, and according to the characteristics of your students, then the examples can be supported with visual aids. So you can make it easier for them in this way. If it is going to be deductive, entonces is the opposite. The examples are are given, which are very, very clear, and they need to infer or deduce the form of the formula. In this case, I teach the form or the formula, and they deduce the use. In here, I give the examples again, but instead of finding the formula, they are going to find the intention, okay? So probably in here, they can recognize how because they are focusing on the formula, they can recognize very clearly every single part of the speech in this sentence. So they need to be familiar with the use of every single part of a speech. So the teacher will guide through elicitation. I will be constantly asking, guiding, because the ones who are going to discover are the students. The teacher should avoid giving them the answer. Otherwise, pues the activity has no sense, okay? And always, always, always making these questions to check the concept, the contextualization, make the students think and make this critical thinking, this inference, this guessing, So that's why I would say that guided discovery is not for basic learners. They need certain level of management of language and knowledge of the world, experience. So in here, the advantages is that totally not traditional, it goes out of the box. It is very necessary for us to have a clear context. It is motivating because they are working individually, they are discovering the language on their own, so they feel motivated, they feel happy, they feel satisfied. And well, the difficult part is the finding the clear examples, giving them the proper guidance, by asking questions, eliciting, inviting to think, and pues in here, the students are in action and the teacher is just observing, listening, and guiding. The feedback is provided by this elicitation. If you listen that they are doing wrong or they are a little bit caliente, caliente, frío, frío, pues you can help them just by eliciting without giving them the correct answer, okay? Questions about guided discovery? Questions about the difference between deduction and induction?
No, teacher.
No? Okay, very good. Now, let's go with the last one, which is lexical approach, okay? Lexical approach is developed or was developed by Michael Lewis. In here, what they are going to learn are chunks of language, phrases, idioms, specific kind of vocabulary. So it's a simple activity to incorporate the lexical approach is to encourage learners to identify and record lexical chunks and fixed phrases in text they read. Mainly is in reading or also can be in a listening, okay?
The lexical approach. Before getting into the lexical approach, I would like us to first ask ourselves the following question. What is lexical chunk? Well, lexical chunk is a group of words that are commonly found together For example, look at the following conversation. Did you stay long at the party? No. I got out of there as soon as they ran out of food. Stay long, at the party, got out of there as soon as, ran out of are all examples of lexical chunks. Lexical chunks are also known as collocations, set phrases, prefabricated phrases, or lexical phrases, among other names. The one who started with the lexical approach was this fellow over here. His name is Michael Lewis. In the year 1993, he started making his studies public. According to his approach, lexis is the basis of language, lexis referring to lexical chunk. Grammatical mastery is not a requirement for effective communication, meaning that the storage in the brain of a long list of grammar structures will not guarantee meaningful communication. Any meaning-centered syllabus should be organized around lexis rather than around grammar. According to the grammatical approach, contrary to the lexical approach, fluency is gained through the accumulation of long lists of grammatical structures that, in combination with vocabulary words, will bring about fluency. So let's look at the example over here. Tom is playing soccer. So according to the grammatical approach, the brain accesses every single constituent of this sentence and then forms the sentence to achieve communication. But according to the lexical approach, this is not the case. Fluency is rather the accumulation of vast stocks of these lexical phrases. Lexical phrases or lexical chunks are therefore vital for fluent production. For example, look at this conversation between Chris and John. So Chris says, Carlos tells me Jessica fancies him. John says, it's just a figment of his imagination. According to the grammatical approach, what the brain does in this case is it accesses every single part of this sentence and then it puts it together. It to be adverb, article, noun, of, possessive adjective, and so on and so forth. But according to the lexical approach, once again, what the brain rather does is it accesses the full chunk, it accesses the full phrase as a whole. It was just a figment of plus possessive adjective and plus imagination. Fun fact about this sentence and about this phrase, when asked to define the word figment, native speakers rather used examples like the ones we just saw, rather than defining the word figment in itself. In fact, many of them did not really know what figment is, bringing about the conclusion that native speakers use chunks without analyzing the constituent parts of each sentence. So, taking everything into account, fluency is gained through the accumulation of set phrases that, put together with vocabulary, bring about meaningful communication. This is the end. Thank you for listening and thank you for watching.
So in here is mainly vocabulary, okay, lexical stuff. So it's very useful when we are teaching, for example, idioms, collocation, phrases, expressions, linking words, time phrases, or time expressions, etc. It's a complement for the grammatical structures. So remember that the lexical sets are closely related to the context or the intention. For example, if I want to emphasize the frequency, when I do something, pues I use the frequency adverbs. For example, idioms is to give examples in a colloquial way about my opinion or something like that. So, and depending on each topic, we are going to have a specific jargon, no? The jargon for sports, etc., etc. No? So it's important also to complement this knowledge of grammatical stuff by using this lexical stuff, okay? So as we said before, if you know a lot of grammar, if you know a lot of vocabulary, doesn't mean that you may be able to communicate correctly or fluently. You may have a very standard level of English or even low level of English, but if you gain this security, if you know how to use it, and you have very well developed the other soft skills, surely you may be able to deal with a conversation, and you will communicate with others, and you will transmit what you really want to say. So in this case, the students help gain, it helps to gain fluency because they follow the track of the conversation. And in here, what they are going to learn is to make this substitution. If I don't know how to say, well, I have other lexical tools that help me to transmit exactly the idea that I want to express. So in this case, they complete the forms and the use of the phrase or the chunks of grammar. So I was giving the example that maybe we can teach with this, for example, sports, and divide them by lexical groups: the sports that you do, the sports that you play, and the sports you make. So that is a simple and clear example of when and where you can use this approach. So the presentation can be through a reading or through a listening. So they need to identify the views, analyze, practice, and produce. They identify in the reading, they deduce the meaning, they analyze how this lexical chunk works in the structure. They have a practice, can be controlled, semi-controlled, or free, depending on the level and the level of difficulty of the chunk of lexis you are introducing, and they have a production. So, in speaking, they can discuss the meaning and back up to the deduction. They can exchange points of views. They can back up why they think this word or this phrase may mean one thing or another, and together can come up with a simple definition, with a common definition. So they can create a bank of words, a list of lexis, and because they came up with their own definition and the rule, pues also you are promoting students' independency, you are promoting collaborative work, and also pues they are going to feel more motivated and interested in the process of learning. Okay, so these are mainly these are all the methods and approaches that you may be asked in the exam. Obviously, there are others. And now with the technology, pues we have more. We are increasing the number of approaches and methods. We are increasing in the number of abilities we are including in each one of them. Okay, so everything will depend on my objective. So lessons normally follow a sequence, and there are different ways of linking activities. So as we said, we can have an eclectic lesson. I can work mainly with PPP and combine different methods and approaches to enrich my presentation. For example, we saw presentation, controlled practice, and free practice. In TBL, they have a discussion, they have the task, they have a presentation, and they focus on the form, and the fluency and the accuracy. Skill-based lessons, I can have the 4 skills in the same lesson. As we said, and as we saw, many of these methods combine or allow us to combine different skills with different sub-skills. Again, based on the main objective I have decided for this lesson. For the practice activities, I know that I have controlled, semi-controlled, and free, but I want to invite you to analyze and think about the practice activities and see them in a different way. Check the kind of practice activities you have in your book. And see what other sub-skills or skills can be involved in the development of these practice skills, practice activities. For example, I have here in a word categories exercise, when they have a box full of words and they need to write under the correct heading the words, in this case, apart from practicing the vocabulary, they are discriminating. Remember, it's more than teaching language. I'm also developing other skills and other mental abilities are taking place. So I need to consider all these elements. So they are categorizing, they are discriminating, they are checking the spelling, they are practicing the written form. Probably they can be practicing the oral form, the stress, and the intonation. For example, in an unscrambled sentence, they have the different elements in the sentence, all of them, mix them up, so they can be focused on language, chunks of language, in the different parts of a speech, in the form, the collocation, the spelling. They may be practicing also writing skills, this part of punctuation and capitalization, sentence, the sentence convention, no, that is capitalization, punctuation, and verb correspondence to the pronoun. So goes beyond unscrambling, just unscrambling the sentence, and also reading. And if they are reading the sentences out loud, pues they are also practicing intonation in a sentence, pronunciation, etc., etc. Find someone who. You have the questions, they need to find someone else and write the name of the person who does or who has or that, no sé, that has done a specific activity or item. In here, pues we are promoting speaking sub-skills, interaction, intonation, body language, facial expressions, asking for clarification, extending, no sé, answers, spelling, writing skills, etc., etc. Jigsaw reading. In this case, I have a text. I divide the text into different pieces or paragraphs, or the paragraphs are subdivided. I paste the different pieces of the text around the classroom, and they can do it individually or they can do it in teams. So they need to read and organize correctly in the correct following the correct coherence and cohesion, the text. So I can omit commas, periods, linking words, and capital letters in order to make it more challenging. So in this case, because they are reading, pues they are going to be skimming, scanning, reading for detail, identifying parts of the speech, cohesion, coherence, capitalization, punctuation, pronunciation, intonation. They are discussing, they are agreeing, they are disagreeing. So I need to see and check what kind of activities I'm going to have today in my class and probably go beyond. In a simple exercise, I can check and evaluate different things. So what other things I can include? And maybe when one practice activity, I can have part of my evaluation. Yes? And in this case, I decide if my students will continue practicing in a controlled or semi-controlled way, or if I can immediately go straight to the production, okay? So this is my invitation. Analyze, identify the skills and sub-skills included in the different exercises and activities you have in your book. And if you consider that this exercise is not designed in such a way that may help or cover your students' necessities, change them, adapt them, because the protagonists are your students. And it's not the book. We don't need to fill in the book exactly the way it is. If we consider that this is too challenging or so easy for my students, replant and remake the exercise. Probably you don't need to write anything, but you may say, pues we are going to change a little bit the instructions. Instead of doing this, we are going to do that. And if you consider that the activity you changed at the very beginning may be useful for a follow-up activity, pues do it. So you are having two practices by using just one exercise. So when we select the activity, we need to decide on the purpose and the aim, what type of activity will be, in case I need to adjust and transform the exercise, if they need more controlled or semi-controlled activity, or probably if instead of having a controlled or semi-controlled activity, I'm going to take it as a production. And if this exercise is focusing on developing accuracy, that means the form and the use of grammar and vocabulary, or if this exercise is mainly focused on communication in developing fluency. Remember, when fluency, you don't interrupt your students. When it's accuracy, you can from time to time correct at the time your students are performing. And also, as the analysis we made here, what skills and sub-skills will be developed or will be touched by answering this exercise. So probably they may be practicing two skills in one exercise. So that gives me time. That is to improve that management of time I have in my classroom. Okay? Comments? No comments?
No, teacher.
Okay, entonces, as part of the homework, I asked you to answer an exercise from the mock test. So I'm going to ask you to open your mock on page 8. It is this one, okay? So for questions 34 to 40, choose the best option to complete each statement on speaking skills. So the number one, or the number 34, adapting your speech to the listener can involve giving attention to the register, making use of prompting, or politely correcting. Is letter A, because I cannot use the same level of English with advanced students than with true beginners. So I need to adapt the register. If it is advanced, more formal or informal, okay? Luego, a common feature of a speech which is not fluent is hesitation, encouragement, or turn taking. Well, this turn taking is implicit in the conversation. I ask you, you answer me. And you ask me, and I answered you. Encouragement, pues is motivation. So it's not really related to fluency. But hesitation, how many times I hesitate, or I gain more fluency when I'm not hesitating all the time, okay? Luego, interactive speaking involves developing a topic, using a variety of language patterns, or exchanging ideas. Because it's interaction, yes, come and go, pues is interchanging ideas. It's not developing a topic, because I can develop a topic on my own, by myself. I can be speaking alone, in front of an audience where this communication or this exchange of ideas is not taking place. Using a variety of language patterns, pues no, because in here, we are talking about the interchange of, or this communicative flow. We are not talking about the accuracy, okay? An example of self-correction, no, what I actually said was, I mean coming down the stairs, sorry. That's right. In other words, a lot of people think that. The first example is no, what I actually said was, is when you are going to paraphrase, because probably the way you said something was not really clear. So you are clarifying. In this case, that's right. In other words, a lot of people think that. You are like backing up, or you are supporting what someone else has just said. And in here, for example, I mean coming down the stairs, sorry, just because the sorry is self-correction. You need to correct what you said, but you realize about the mistake. No, there's no one else to come and tell you that you are incorrect, okay? Trying to help the listener can involve request clarification, interrupting, or paraphrasing. Bueno, ask for clarification is when you are the listener and the other person is giving you the piece of information. So if you don't understand, you ask for clarification. Interrupting, pues you are not helping the listener, because it's just receiving. Paraphrasing is probably repeating what you said and what you found that is not like really clear, and you say the same idea in other words. Speaker uses repetition to explain things more simply when communication has broken down, speed up the interaction process, or clarify things for a listener who has not heard properly. Repetition, pues obviously when the person cannot hear correctly, you need to repeat. In this case, Explain things more simply when communication has broken down. In this case, you stopped. There was an exchange of information and suddenly was interrupted. So you need to retake or restart the conversation, but you don't repeat everything you said. And speed up the interaction process. You are not speaking faster, because in here we are talking about repetition. And in this case, you are not repeating anything. Linking devices are important when giving a presentation to an audience using corrected speech or communicating the meaning of individual words. Is giving a presentation to the audience because in that case, the piece of information you are delivering or you are transmitting may have a correct coherence and cohesion, so can be very clear. Corrected speech, you don't have time to correct. It's implicit that you are when you are speaking, you are not correcting. In that moment, you are just producing the language. And communicating the meaning of individual words, well, you are not explaining vocabulary. In this case, the linking devices take place because you are dealing with very large chunks of language. So the answers are A, C, B, C, C, and A. Okay? All right, we'll still have 20 minutes. So what we are going to do, and I'm going to ask you, is to go to grammatical. Mr. Jam. Mistakes is tomorrow. Learning strategies is the Jam. L1 and L2. Techniques for presenting new language. So for questions 56 to 61, match the teacher's actions with the techniques for presenting new language, listed A to G. Mark the correct letter A to G on your answer sheet. And you have techniques for presenting new language. Encouraging prediction of target language using a familiar text, drilling of language forms, concept checking, using a visual context, personalizing a topic, and giving a model for pronunciation, okay? Entonces you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Is 6:41. So at 6:48, we are going to check together, okay? You have 6 minutes. So let's check, okay? So techniques for presenting new language. You have the teacher tells a favorite fairy story to introduce narrative tenses. What technique is that?
Letter B.
Very good. That is letter B. That is using a familiar text. Excellent. Very good. Now, after the students have read a text about a person who used to live in New York, the teacher asks the student if the person still lives in New York.
Is it letter E? Using a visual context.
But they are reading. Is something,
Is it A? I don't know.
Encourage, no, pues, don't worry. It's an encouraging prediction of target language is what you do in order to check the understanding. Do you remember the teacher in PPP when he was asking the astronaut wears normal clothes or special suit? What was the teacher doing? He was checking what? Ah, ya se las dije. He was checking the concept, no? Exactly. Because you read and, for example, this guy visits the ONU building and the Rockefeller Center and no sé, the Museum of Art and the, no sé, no sé, la Tribeca. This guy lives in New York or lives in Miami? No, pues lives in New York because these places are not in Miami. So you are checking the concept of being or the contextualization of being in New York. Luego, teacher repeats the words walk and work. The teacher repeats the words walk and walk. Work, walk and work.
G.
Exactly, giving model for pronunciation. That is letter G. Excellent, very good. The teacher shows an interview with a singer and asks the students to identify 5 pillars the singer uses.
Letter C.
A ver, the teacher shows an interview with a singer and asks the students to identify 5 pillars the singer uses. And you say, which one?
Letter C. Is it letter C? Children of language
The drilling of language. Remember that drilling is modeling and repeating. In this case is personalizing.
I thought it was E.
Digo, y, sí es cierto. Using visual context. Using visual context is letter E. You are using the contextualization in which the language is presented. And they need to visualize, or they need to see exactly where these structures are, okay? Now, the teacher asks the students what sport they play.
Is it F?
Sorry?
I think it's F. Personalizing a topic.
Exactly, very good. Excellent, letter F. Luego, the teacher asks the students to repeat some conditional sentences from a recording.
This will be drilling.
Should be C, right?
Yes, of course. Excellent. Easy or difficult?
For me, so-so.
So, why so?
I got confused. Like,
Maybe because of the terms, because I'm sure that you know perfectly these methods, but there are some concepts that you may know with other names. So don't worry, this is just practice. And in the following module, some of these concepts are going to be reinforced. Entonces, we are still practicing, okay? Entonces, a ver. I'm going to ask you to send a copy of page 8 and the page we answered right now. In the classroom, I'm going to let you know when the task is ready, okay? And tomorrow we are going to see motivation, error correction, and evaluation. That more or less we have been talking about evaluation, so it's not going to be so long. And tomorrow we are going to have the other mock exam. In this case, we are going to take the 80 minutes. You are going to answer the whole text. And at the end, we are going to check. I'm going to give you another phonemic symbols exercise practice, but you can do it during the weekend. So you can upload your results or send, the platform will be closed next Monday. So you can continue practicing because I think it's something important that you keep on practicing, okay? Entonces we keep in touch in the WhatsApp group and I will see you tomorrow. So rest and have a nice evening, okay? See you tomorrow and thank you very much.
thanks to you.
No, you're welcome.
too.
Goodbye. You're welcome.